Welcome back to the Tidarium Hangar. This is Mike, and happy Friday, happy Masterpiece Transformers Friday. Today I want to talk to you about competition or lack thereof in the Masterpiece space, specifically for G1 characters. And I'm going to talk about the fact that XTransbots and Fans Toys are really all there is for true competition. There's a couple of figures here and there from other companies, but we're going to talk about the likes of Bad Cube, DX9, Make Toys, MMC, Unique Toys, Zeta, Takara, his Takara competition, Toy World, Transform Element, Open and Play, Big Spring of the Robot Hero, KFC, and a few more coming up. First off, I want to talk about Bad Cube and kind of what's going on with them. It seems like they go dormant, then they come back with some reissues. Usually when they come back with a reissue, we see that they have a new figure coming out or in the plan or it's been announced, and it makes sense. They're going to do a reissue or a few reissues, generate the funds towards the new figure, and that's kind of how it seems to work. Now, we've been looking at this T-Red figure up here for a while. I don't really know what's going on with that so much, but I do know that they're reissuing their Grump, their Huff. They've got a couple of good figures in there. They're even coming with Sun Surge, which some question whether it's a smart idea or not, but the Bad Cube Bugs are an affordable option also. Well, why are they not reissuing everything? I've got a theory that Bad Cube only puts out figures that they think they're going to sell and sell well, which is good business and really does make sense. I feel like they're not reissuing their Brawny at this point, and they're not reissuing their War Dog at this point, simply because those two characters have been made by Fans Toys, and they probably feel like people are more satisfied with the Fans Toys option than wanting to go with their option. That's probably their belief, and that's my theory on this. As Fans Toys issues a figure that they have already made, they no longer reissue it or re-release it, and it's kind of becoming a trend with them, but I'm still seeing nothing new. I really hope I see something new with Bad Cube, but have you noticed this trend also? Next up, I do want to talk about DX9, and it seems like DX9, of course, has said that they are done making new figures, or it's over. But yet they got a ton of reissues in the pipeline, and some of their old stock is still around here and there, and they have done a lot of good in the day. With their Omega Supreme, they have a pretty good Minosaur out there, and their Tyrant, which is Galvatron, is pretty good. So they have some good figures. They're reissuing sort of their greatest hits right now. I really don't like losing any of these companies, but they did say in their closing statements of, we're going away, we will come back with a new name. They're going to have a new name down the road. I think a lot of their problems has to do with what they named one of their figures and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, this is a decent option for hopefully a well-priced version of this figure, and it's a pretty well-priced set for Minosaur. They do put out figures that are reasonably priced, that look pretty good. The downside, some of the lack of the finish, but I still think they look great and they work well on your Masterpiece shelf. So next thing I want to talk about is Make Toys. And Make Toys has done quite a bit of good. They have probably the best jazz on the market right now, and for a while until we get more released. And their Seekers and their Headmasters are what everybody wants more of. They want to complete the Seeker set, they want to complete the Headmaster set, they want to do it for a relatively cheap price. Now, Make Toys did get knocked off quite a few times, and there's concern that they knocked themselves off or they sold a license. Is a financial concern. Can they afford to pay for the production to do the next release? That's a big problem. That's what everyone's concerned about. Are they going the way of Moss Toys? So that's always the issue. We really hope Make Toys hangs in there and finishes all these. Maybe one day. I hope so. So next up I want to talk about MMC. Now MMC in my mind should be a big player, but they're not as big of a player as, well, they should be. They're only doing a couple of things right now. They are working on a Defensor, and they're working on, well, they've got a decent Mirage they've made like 19 times. And then they made a Springer, they call it Saltus, which is a pretty solid one. One thing about Make Toys, well, two things. First off, their designs are not super G1. They are G1 adjacent. They are close enough that, hey, I could squeeze that on my shelf and it'll work. They don't go for Super G1. They're a little bit stylized. On the other hand, they also don't scale as well. They make them just a little bit smaller than Masterpiece, and I don't really know exactly why they do that, but I understand the design thing, so they don't get slapped on the wrist too hard by Takara or Hasbro or any of that kind of stuff, but the size thing still doesn't make sense to me. When it comes to the figures, I think they actually look pretty good. That Defensor looks really good to me. I know a lot of people kind of discuss and argue back and forth on which one looks better, this one or XTransbots, and it really does kind of suck that that's really our only options right now. But this one is too short if you're keeping up with the current larger scale of Masterpiece. I still think it looks good. If you really do want, you could fake it till you make it, put like a couple boards underneath it or something, make it taller. So Unique Toys has already discussed that they're shutting their doors. Also, they're done, they're through, but yet as soon as they said that, they put up a whole bunch of reissues again. So it just kind of tells me they'll be here pulling a bad cube, reissuing stuff, and maybe not making new designs. But also, it's been said Unique Toys and DX9 are associated in some way, shape, or form, so I don't know 100%, but that's kind of the rumor on the street. But looking at this, we do have a decent Sandstorm. Probably not the best one we'll ever get, but the only one we have for now, and probably the only one we'll have for the foreseeable future till XTransbots makes one. And then we've got their Blur. Now, I thought their Blur was pretty good. I think Fans Toys is a little bit better, but still, it's a good Blur. If you've got this one or you don't have one and you want to get this one, it's a decent option out there. And it is taller than the Fans Toys one. Also, the Unique Toys Provider, which is their Octane. Now, that dude is short for some reason, which is weird. But anyway, it's a pretty good figure. It's a solid figure. I like it. Just wish he was a little bit taller. They did have some good stuff that they put out, including some Legends figures. It's like they did a series of Legends figures and just cashed out or tapped out or whatever. They just stopped making them. They didn't reissue them lately, or well, it's been a long time since they've reissued these. So I don't know if it was that they just didn't sell well. I don't know. That's a strange thing going on right there. Same thing with DX9. DX9 was in the mix. They more or less were starting this whole Legend scale thing. And both Unique Toys and DX9 have completely stopped. So I want to talk about Zeta for a little bit. And looking at this here, what Zeta got to offer? Well, more or less more of the same. So they are making some Legend scale version of their Superion. Superion is great in combined form. They're also making these Seekers. Now these Seekers are based off of their Conehead molds, which are taller. So that's interesting too. That's pretty cool. But the whole point about all this is that they're not doing anything really new. These Seekers aren't really new. They're just slight redesigns of what they already have, the molds that they already have. I don't know if they got slapped too hard on the wrist for making the whole Unicron and 01 Studio Cell and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I'd like to see them do a little bit more. Maybe they could be in the Defensor game, or maybe they could be in the Computron game. So you can't talk about Zeta without talking about Toy World. So Toy World has pretty much tapped out of G1 themselves. They're going in their own new direction, which is fine. That's something that they can do. But they continue to put out more of these constructors and different color variations and different shades of paint and finishing and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of all they're doing. That's all they're contributing to the G1 for now. So I do want to talk about Transform Element real quick. They made a good Prime. That Prime's out in a few different colors. And so why are they not making more figures, more characters? Because they're so loved for that Prime. And a lot of people really do like this Mirage, and I do too. So this picture came from Transfixed. If you haven't checked out the Transfixed YouTube channel, he does a lot of kind of stuff here. He shows you how to fix your Mirage and the problems he had with his, including the infamous green foot syndrome. So I don't know what's going on with that green foot syndrome that's been plaguing people. Mine doesn't have it, but a lot of other people's do. But anyway, they've made a few mistakes. They've made a few errors along the way. But does that mean that they disappear? Well, some people think they didn't disappear, that they just rebranded their name. So a lot of people feel that Transform Element is Deformation Space. Deformation Space is making this new Seeker that looks super G1, and it's going to rival the Takara version of the Seeker. But I agree. I actually do agree. This figure looks great, and it does give me all of those Transform Element feels, but there's no evidence to really support that they're the same company or the same people behind it, other than just kind of matching the aesthetics, which is kind of interesting. Deformation Space is also making their blaster. So it looks like a G1S type of blaster. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to it when we see it in real form. This just looks super duper blocky and unarticulated. I'm sure it's going to have all the articulation we would expect from a Transformer in the Masterpiece realm, because their other figure has it, right? Even the waist swivel. So it's interesting. This is very early concept art. I would love to see, well, the prototype when it comes out. Also, what are we talking about here with this ram horn? This ram horn of theirs, the left, with their ram horn version, and on the right, we see KFC's ram horn version. So, KFC wanted to take a second stab at it. Their first one, it was not bad. It's just had terrible QC and broke easily. It fell apart, and it wasn't the greatest thing ever, but it was still better than the G1. So looking at both of these, it's going to be really hard to decide which one's better until you have them both in hand. Looks like they do a lot of things very similarly, but it's kind of interesting to me how similar these are. But of course, there's only so many ways you can transform this figure, right? So it's funny how KFC has jumped on the 2.0 bandwagon and making 2.0 of their cassettes. And it makes me wonder, has KFC got something else up their sleeve, or is this just a one-off? It just doesn't make sense that after all these years, they take another stab at their cassettes. That's just interesting to me, and yet it still makes absolutely no sense. But, hey, I got them pre-ordered. I'm going to check them out. So, KFC is doing a lot of good stuff with these Junkions, and they're even making a Psykill. So, GoBots, go for GoBots. And they're making, I think we're up to 9. Is it 9? Or maybe 10 Junkions that you can get different versions of, and they make a great little display there. They also make a lot of other things. They're not going anywhere. They're not competing very heavily, but they're also pretty much part of XTransbots. I've always viewed KFC as the premium, with premium paint and premium materials. This is the premium brand. XTransbots as the more budget brand, but lately they've kind of mixed it, so it's kind of hard to tell what they got going on. They also have Power Master Optimus Prime kind of thing in the works. So KFC has some going on, but nothing near as much as the XTransbots name. So getting on to Takara here. Takara's got what I don't call competition, really. Whatever they put out, they sell. That's all there is to it. Just because it's Takara, they are the leader. They do good work. The figures look great, and I didn't have any real issues with my Starscream. My Starscream worked as I expected. He's fine, but he's just another iterations of figures we already have. We could already fill out a shelf of Seekers without this 3.0. Yes, it looks pretty good, but also they're doing another, like a repaint. So they're just doing rehashes right now, the repaint of their RC. We've been there, done that. It's a Nightbird. It's a good idea, though. I'm not going to lie. It's a good idea, but it's a mold we've already got. It's not really new figures coming out, but it works. And then they've got their skids, which is new, but it's going to get repainted a ton of times. So is this really competition compared to what we're going to see coming up with XTransbots and Fans Toys? So we're going to touch on this Robot Hero for just a little bit. Now, this is a company, this is purely, in my mind, this is a KO. They call this the RH02 Airwolf. Robot Hero makes KOs. They make KO oversize of Seekers. They make KO oversize, it's KO exact size of the Robot Hero version of Soundwave, Takara's Soundwave. So they're more or less a knockoff company, right? They're a KO company. Is that what they are for the most part? So they probably bought the rights to this. They probably bought the rights to everything they've knocked off, by the way. But anyhow, they're going to make this better than Open and Play. And I got excited thinking Open and Play was back. It's just getting copied. Why have this mold and not use it? So, well, that's what Robot Hero is saying. So now we're getting into the real competition, and I have to say that I believe XTransbots is more valuable to the Masterpiece space than anybody gives them credit for. What they've done in the last couple of months with all of the figures that they've announced that they're going to release. And I guarantee you they're going to deliver on a lot of these figures. And I guarantee there will be one or two hiccups in there. It's just the way it is. Especially if you're going to put up this many figures, there's going to be some hiccups in it. But if they come through with fixing the issues with the lock, and they come through with delivering all these figures to us, and for the most part they're decent, and if they can really bring home a good Perceptor, they can really bring home a lot of good figures, I am really excited about XTransbots. That's all I gotta say. I'm really excited about what XTransbots has to offer, what's going on, and I look forward to it. They are going to give us a punch-counterpunch. They're going to give us the runabout and runamuck, and their prices are very, very reasonable. They are definitely severe, massive competition to Fans Toys. I like what they're doing, and I hope they keep it up, and I hope this sparks something under Fans Toys, like a fire. Now, talking about Fans Toys, for some reason people think I don't like Fans Toys, which I don't understand that. I love Fans Toys products, but I'm just honest, and sometimes I think other companies make a better product. Not every single thing they make is the best of the best of the best. Like Spindrift. Spindrift was the last real figure, new figure we've gotten from them, and that's been 4 months, over 4 months. All we've gotten from them lately are reissues. Now, the community did ask for those reissues. The community didn't ask for the price. Now, last week I did have the whole shelf-warming fans toys discussion because that kind of leads into this. That leads into the competition factor. Since competition's out there, that's a big part of it. And a lot of viewers in the comment section hit the nail on the head that there's other options out there for a better price, and it's not really worth it for them, for their collection, for their budget. But I have to say, with all that, I look forward to a lot of things coming from Fans Toys in the future. It's just, when will they come? So I'll be honest that I'm really happy that we don't have 6 companies trying to make the same exact character at the same time. On the other hand, I would like at least 2 options of each character. That's nice. And we have that for the most part for a lot of characters, and there's really not a monopoly on every single character by any one company just yet. Some of these more obscure characters are getting done. If the community supports it, we'll get even more. I look forward to seeing what's going on with that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What other companies do you think actually offer real competition to XTransbots and Fans Toys? Like, subscribe. Titanium Hanger out.